Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Let's bring you up to speed with the big political stories we're tracking at this hour. Federal government to set up committee to advise on the execution of a proposed national population census to meet global best practice. Representatives of many groups, including professional bodies, rally support for the tax reform bill currently before the floor of the National Assembly. And Presidency replies former Governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, asking him to move on following El-Rufai's comment on his not being in President Tinubu's cabinet. Thanks again for joining us on the program where we track what's going on in the polity and in politics. At midday is your all-access pass to what's happening in the country. So we'll begin with that tax. President Tinubu stating that his administration is determined to continue prioritizing the development of digital economy to enhance youth empowerment and job creation. He reaffirmed this when he received participants of the Senior Executive Course 46 of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, at the State House in Abuja. President Tinubu also met the chairman and members of the National Population Commission, where he was briefed on plans to ensure the country conducts a new population and housing census as soon as possible. He admonished the commission to align its budget with the current reality and maintains that Nigeria must ascertain who we are and how to manage data with the outcome of accurate census to enable effective and efficient planning for the country. And besides, with that, as the population census is concerned, former Governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, has been speaking on current development in the country, but part of his recent comments is to the effect that it wasn't the National Assembly that actually rejected his nomination to be in the president's cabinet, but it's the president himself who, by inference, rejected or did not allow him into his cabinet for whatever reason, which he doesn't know. But let's take a listen to the response of the presidency. The special advisor to the president on media and information, Mr. Bayo Nanuga, was earlier on our program today, Sunrise Daily, and this is his response to Mr. El-Rufai.
As a person, I think I will pity former governor of Kaduna State, Madam El-Rufai.
Pity.
It feels odd that he was not made a minister. I think it's a long time now. The ministers he came in August 2023. I think it's time for him to move on. You cannot continue to behave like a child, as if somebody stole your bread and things like that, and then you are crying over a spilt milk, as you say. It's natural for him to feel hurt. It's natural for him to feel bad that he's been excluded. And I think as the president acknowledged in the recent birthday tribute to him, Nasiru actually helped a lot in installing President Tinubu. And if he's not there, it doesn't mean that he must bring down the roof.
No, but clearly something has gone wrong in their relationship. What has happened?
The president has not had the most against Nasiru. I said Nasiru feels naturally hurt that he has been excluded. And that's why he's going about everywhere campaigning against the president and so on. It shows a man who resented being left out of the moving train and he will not let go. But my advice to him, as a brother, as a former governor, should just appeal to him that he should forget it. If he's not made a minister, he's been in public service since 1999.
Well, you can imagine how that will the response that will eventually come with. So perhaps it's going to be a back and forth between the presidency and Malam Nasser El-Rufai as far as being or not being in the cabinet of Bola Tinubu, the president, is concerned. And he's also been very critical about his position as well. But moving away from that, the tax reform bill, which has received some overwhelming support yesterday during the one-day public hearing organized by the Senate Committee on Finance, where the Senate President Godswill Akpabio underscored that the outcome of the reforms will shape the country's development. The Senate President asked stakeholders to embrace what he calls a collective and forward-thinking approach to tax reform, which is critical to Nigeria's future. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Mezuke now reports.
2 months after the Senate passed the 4 tax reform bills through second reading, it is up for further scrutiny by stakeholders. The bills comprising the Joint Revenue Board, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, and the Nigeria Tax Bill have generated concerns across the country following its introduction last year.
So we must begin to think out of the box to bring up a robust, transparent, and a conducive environment for government to bring revenue. This is the future of Nigeria, this tax reform. We must get it right. That's why I said all oversight functions must be closed until we finish with this business.
In a surprising turn of events, the once highly contested tax reform bills received unanimous backing.
Our industry contributes to the largest contribution to revenue from taxes. And today what this means is that we're seeking a single tax book that we can relate to and we can work with and we're planning with it. Chairman, I can confirm to you that not just NNPC, the entire oil and gas industry is happy to have this reform that is coming at the right moment today.
As the economy grows, so we must arrive at, we must modernize our tax laws, enhance compliance, broaden the tax base, and create an environment that fosters investment and job creation.
There is hardly a dissenting voice as the general consensus favored the reforms. However, there are a few concerns.
One area that we feel that this committee will address is the area of VAT distribution to subnationals. I would like this committee to adopt and listen to the Governors Forum on that.
Why we are here also today is to, clarify the perception that the North is against this bill. It's not true. And please, some of these bills that are very beneficial to the country, we should not politicize it.
The chairman of the Senate Committee on Finance told the gathering that the president has requested that the lawmakers should produce a workable law for the tax reform bills. Meanwhile, public hearings for the 4 tax reform bills will continue in both chambers in the National Assembly this week. The Christian Association of Nigeria, the Nigeria Immigration Service, the Nigeria Customs, as well as the Federal Inland Revenue Service are among agencies expected to make their presentations on Tuesday. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
All right, in the last, since 2023, besides the outcome of the 2023 presidential election, nothing has been as controversial as the 4 reforms bill that is aimed at repositioning our tax laws. The Nigeria Tax Bill, which is going to be Nigeria Tax Act, Nigeria Tax Administration, and the one that has to do with the Revenue Service Board and the rest of them. So about 4 bills. But now it appears it's making headway, some sort of, because the National Assembly has passed it. It has passed second reading, and now we have that public hearing ongoing, or I think it's supposed to be 2 days. And then from there, legislative activities will culminate in passing the bill, annotations on the bill. The governors had to step in at some point to give their position, what they were comfortable with, what they are not comfortable. In fact, they were at the vanguard of kicking against some of the provisions of that bill. But we're now being joined in the program by a man who has actually sat in those chambers at some point in the Ninth Assembly. Dachong Bagos, a former member of the House of Representatives. He joins us from Jos in Plateau State. Honorable, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Afternoon, Geoffrey. Afternoon, Nigeria.
So we remember that in the maiden presidential chats that the president had with some journalists, he had mentioned that whatever it takes for him to make sure this tax reform bill passes, you will do it. Perhaps he's saying if there has to be compromises. And now we're seeing progress. What do you think happened between then and where we are right now?
Yeah, well, as a president, he has many ways to see that his dreams, aspiration, and whatsoever agenda he has many ways to achieve that. And as politicians as well, we have many ways to achieve whatever we want to achieve. But at the end of the day, as we lobby for some of our agenda to get through, my worry has always been what will Nigerians in a whole benefit from it? What's the implication to Nigerians? In as much as we have that we score that point politically, but at the end of the day, the implication of our decision on Nigerians in general. So that's my little concern. Yes, we welcome any development that will bring Nigeria to that glory that we all desire. But at the end of the day, where does Nigerian stand? So if this is a bill that we have seen had gotten a lot of resistance over some months when it came in, now we are having voices in support. Have Nigerians been carried along? Have proper sensitization, the implication, and whatsoever Nigerians need to get the benefits to Nigerians? Because the benefit of anything government needs to put in place is not just about government trying to get money. So if government is trying to get money, it's trying to get money for what? And at the end of the day, you look at the tax that you want to get or you want to collect through the reform. Is it commensurate to the GDP? Because tax to GDP ratio is very key in every in terms of the economy of the nation. So if at the end of the day, the tax reform now hijack the tax burden of Nigeria above even the GDP, then that's where we're going to have a very big problem. So my concern is the implication of it at the end of the day, in as much as we have a political solution. Where is the Nigerian solution to Nigerians?
I like the way you were able to separate the political and the Nigerian solution, and that's a good perspective on how to look at it, because sometimes it looks like both of us live in different worlds, the politicians and the ordinary citizen. But there's a part that I would like you to speak to. In fact, a couple of parts I would like you to speak to. Some has to do with the provisions already in the law. Some has to do with the implementation and the implication of those implementation. I know that when the bill is passed, for instance, in this first quarter, it will take another 3 months for the moratorium period for everybody to put their acts together before certain provisions will kick in, and then progressively we'll begin to see certain parts of the law coming into effect. But what do you think Nigerians should be expecting from this bill going forward in terms of the efficiency of government to be able to deliver on the dividend of democracy? This is not the first time we're seeing policies, economic policies like this. But at the end of the day, if at the end of the day I still provide for my water, I still provide for my light, I still provide some level of my infrastructure and security, then what's all this?
If you look at our GDP in the country, the biggest industry is services. Export is low, agriculture is low, and the sector that has been overburdened in Nigeria is the oil and gas sector. And the oil and gas only contribute 8% to our GDP. Agriculture contributes 16%, and about the services contributes 55%. So if the tax reform, it's now going to affect the three sectors entirely. So it's something that we should be able to be so worrisome that our GDP is 55% in services. Export is low, very low. And even in implementation of the tax reform, what data are we using? I'm happy that the issue of population is coming in. What data are we using even to implement even the tax reform? Who will be taxed? And the biggest industry in terms of ordinary Nigerians, like I said earlier, where is the Nigerian solution? The civil service is the biggest, as far as I'm concerned, is the biggest industry to Nigeria. Everybody wants to work in the civil service. And in the tax reform, it says minimum from 800,000. So if we're going to look at the minimum wage of every Nigerian, which is 70,000, 70,000 by 12 is going to give you 840,000. So averagely, every civil servant will be affected by the tax reform. So these are issues that we expect more explanation that where is the Nigerian solution? What are we talking about power? In terms of the services, the 55% that increased, that added to part of our GDP are small scale. So what are we talking about power generation in the country? How have we looked at the infrastructure that will be able to give ordinary Nigerians, small scale, ordinary Nigerians, the benefit of doubt that, look, we will have infrastructure to be able to work and we will be taxed. So that as long as ordinary Nigerian can do what he needs to do and he is taxed, no problem. But when you have a tax body, infrastructure is not there, then at the end of the day, it's just like government trying to get money, but get money to sustain the system of governance, not to sustain the economy of Nigeria. Those are issues. Yeah.
Now, the reason I brought out that perspective is the fact that if you're pitching as a tax officer, the whole idea of pitching as a tax officer is to say, if you don't pay tax, I will not be able to provide 1, 2, 3, 4 services that government is supposed to provide. But time and again, government makes effort, but it's not significant enough to move the needle. But I'm going to come back to this subject matter, but I don't want to forget what I'm about to ask there, so I'm bringing it forward. There's a provision that allows for tax exemption for persons who earn, I think, about ₦1 million annually. That should come to about less than 100,000 naira a month. But people are saying with the level of volatility we see in the system and the liabilities that are associated with this volatility, such things as the fluctuation in the exchange rates and the devaluation of the naira or harmonization of the market that looks like a devaluation, however you want to put it, issues of inflation, makes even somebody who earns 100,000, 200,000, looks like it's not really doing much in terms of whatever it is the person is doing. So there's a push for that amount to be moved to maybe in the region of 2 million, say an average of, if it's less than 100,000, people that are earning 200,000 should be included in tax exemption in terms of their payee. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, absolutely. As long as government has not yet make the conducive environment conducive, make the environment to be conducive, to be able to know who will be exempted. Definitely, how will you be able to tax someone that does not even have the capacity to make it to that level? Geoffrey, I can tell you, in a day or in a month, go around and on an average, how many Nigerians can make up to 100,000 a month? That is very worrisome. And if not even just the civil servant, if you're talking about, look at the private companies. How much are the private companies paying their workers? There is serious exploits of labor, even within companies across it, because everybody is trying to maximize profits. So what data are we going to use to even actualize to know that these are the people that are earning either the 100,000 or 1 million? If they are just going to use companies that are being registered in CAC, most of these contractors are briefcase contractors. Because if you want to look at the ratio of the kind of companies that are registered with CAC, Nigeria could have been a developed country by now, because we have a lot of companies that are registered, but you can't see their visibility in address, you can't see their visibility in productivity, you can't see their visibility in employment of labor, you just see it on paper. So it's going to even be very difficult to translate the data that, look, this is the person that is earning this at the end of the day. So that gives us to be worried on the issue of transparency. How transparent has government been able to carry out the issue of even the current tax status? You have people that are being taxed at multiple levels, multiple layers of taxes at different levels. So the transparency in that level is even another issue. So how building trust going forward in this tax reform is another issue that is a very, very big concern to all of us.
All right.
So getting the actualization to teach who is getting that 1 million, those that are within that 1 million ratio, those that are within that 100,000 ratio, it's a very, very big process. So let's not rush to have a reform that the implication on the implementation will not be actual on paper. You will now have companies going to forge a fake, what they call it, at the end of the day, their tax claim, this one doing the, but what you see on paper and the actual reality on ground does not commiserate what's on paper. So let's not cage Nigeria, but fix infrastructure, get power. You'll be able to see Nigerians have been engaged. Improve on export. Once you improve on export, your export now balance services. You'll be able to see that the tax to GDP ratio, once it's balanced, but now what I'm seeing is that once this tax reform comes into play, the ratio of tax will be above GDP. Because
Honorable Dachang, let me butt in here. Let me come in here. Just a moment, because I know that I think in one of the provisions, 100 or 99, one of those provisions, it talked about penalties for not filing and not remitting to the right authority, because in optimizing the economy, which is basically what it's doing, taxation doesn't necessarily, it's not productivity, but it can help to drive productivity. So we talked about fiscalization, which is making sure that every form of transaction is electronically captured, so we know who is lying and who is not. And we said that if that is not properly implemented, the federal government has better efficiency compared to the state, which is why the argument is back and forth and who is going to collect what. But where I'm going to with my next question is some of the comments that was made that yesterday by the Senate President. In fact, he got a lot of backlash for him. And some people have said he shouldn't have said what he said. He said that about 30% or so of Nigerians pay tax. That means 70% don't pay tax, but they expect 100% performance from the government. I would like you to react to that statement as well, because the tax authorities will even tell you that it's the big men that don't even pay the tax.
Well, Geoffrey, I can, if you go and check the justice system, check the law, the penalty on even the current tax rate, who is today facing a jail term or who is today in court in terms of penalty, or even in the current tax system that we have. Absolutely does. A lot of tax exemption by most of the multinationals, by most of the big, either big companies or even the big men or whatsoever, at whatsoever level. So I can tell you, if Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians know that, look, because of this tax, I will be able to get good food. I'll be able to get water. I'll be able to get healthcare. Nigerians are most law-abiding citizens once you prove transparency to them. Why is it that we have Nigerians in places of worship, either mosques or churches? Because they believe that when they go, there is miracle. When they go, they pray to God, and God will answer them. So it's the same thing. When Nigerians believe that government will give them what is due for them, they will be able to do the right thing. So as long as that is not in place, where are the services that Nigerians are rendering that they have not paid tax? I remember in those days where you have villages, you have tax collectors around the community collecting taxes, because they know that, look, when you pay tax, this is what is happening. Security is guaranteed. The roads, even the farm, or people pay tax in those days just for them to go to get tractors or to get farm inputs to their farms. But today, the tax is just for a certain class. The tax that are being collected is a certain class that uses it, and even the certain class that have it at that level are not even paying the tax. So when the ratio is across board, and Nigerians will see the dividend of democracy.
Okay.
I can tell you, the petty trader will pay tax. And again, when you have not digitalized the system, you open room for corruption. When a local government at this 21st century, they are still going around collecting money with their bare hands and in their pocket, they collect 10 naira and they go and declare 1 naira. How? Definitely, you will not have transparency. So digitalizing the system, just like the NIPS participants have submitted their report, it's very important that at this level in the 21st century, we are still talking and looking at our reforms as if we're still in 1960. So we should, first of all, Geoffrey, as we round up, look, data is very important in this. Infrastructure is very important. Give Nigerians the necessary infrastructure, you will be able to balance the ratio of tax to GDP. As long as we have not been able to do that, then we will still be on the old state.
We're totally out of time. There's a lot more to talk about when it comes to that tax reform. Of course, the framers of the law, Tao Yedele, who led that committee, has also acknowledged it's not a perfect document, but it's a place to start from. Maybe as we go on, it's going to get better. Thank you so much, Dachong Bagos, former member.
A place to start. You must have a good foundation to start on. If you start on a very bad foundation, then definitely the building will collapse.
Okay. Dachong Bagos, former member of the House of Reps from Jos. Join us from Jos, the Plateau State capital. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Geoffrey.
Just before we go, the federal government of Nigeria is again looking inwards for local production of country's international passport and voter cards. Vice President Kashim Shettima, during a Secure Read Factory, a smart card manufacturer and digital solutions company, says President Tinubu's administration is committed to developing homegrown enterprises through backward integration.
This industry is a game changer, and I was mesmerized and dumbfounded, honestly, that such a facility can exist in Africa and in Nigeria. So I want to assure the management of the company that the president is always looking for secured integration and facilitation of local businesses. This is a local business with international flavor, with the capacity to do 200 million cars in a year. And they are performing at only 40% of their capacity. I know how the president is very passionate about patronizing Nigerian company, and be rest assured that our passports, our voters' card, will be produced in this country, thereby saving scarce foreign exchange resources.
All right, good move. And that's it on the program. Thank you for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.